Hello everyone, my name is Chakib Labidi. I'm doing the next session on UX prototyping. I see some familiar faces. Maybe hands up for those who done the first bit. Talked about UX design, please. Oh, okay. That's good.
That's me in your picture.
Yeah, it's you actually. It's true. Like I said, my name is Chakib Labidi. I'm one of the internal trainers of Academy class, and I'm also a designer, product designer. My background is product design. I've been working as a designer and graphic designer, interactive designer, multimedia producer, head of a department for the last 15 years, both in Berlin and in London and in the States as well. UX design is something that I personally really enjoy doing. It has become part of my tool set, and not only that, it has changed the way I've approached my project as well. And today I have based my this seminar around the topic of prototyping. Now, UX prototyping is something that if you're already familiar with UX design, maybe hands up for those who are already familiar with UX design. Okay, so if you're already familiar with UX design, you will have done some prototyping, or at least know about prototyping as part of the UX process. Maybe we can hear a little bit from you what your experiences are already with creating prototypes. Any?
We've used Marvel apps, quite a lot at work. So Marvel app's an online-based tool where you can upload your Photoshop files, general PNGs, and you essentially just mark up areas on the images and link those between pages. They also offer transitions and animations. So if you're doing a mobile app on iOS or Android, it's a very good place to upload your stuff and actually get it working. You can then download the app on the mobile phone and physically give it to users and let them tap through the application.
This is just by using just images and
all images.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Just marking up images.
Just marking up images. Literally, you put boxes around sections that you want them to tap. So if you saw up there on that screen, that was actually an exercise we did on Chakib's course where we redesigned the EE mobile app. So you can actually see all the little sections there, essentially sections you can tap and walk through the application.
Marvel.
Yeah.
Marvel, M-A-R-V-E-L-L.
It's actually one of the tools that I will explain later on.
Sorry.
Thank you. Any other tools?
I use Exure.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty powerful tool.
Yeah.
It's really helped out a lot, not just in terms of being able to build a prototype, but also being able to educate stakeholders and to say, look, this is how I see it working. What are your technological boundaries, and what the developers can actually, what can they build from that. So it's quite clever, and the way you can interact it between pages, but also it's quite clever in terms of how things physically work. In terms of, because I'm building I'm building like a rich internet web application. So it's lots of little niggly things, drop downs, and here and there that people want to see. The only thing I struggle with is actually bringing in a database, a dummy database, so creating results and things like that. So, but yeah, it's still pretty good.
It's basically another tool which I will introduce you to. So both of you will probably find at least two tools, new tools, which is great. Any other experience with working?
I used InVision.
Yes.
Yeah. There was a project we had to combine about 6 different websites with 6 different solutions into one website, which covers all these 6 categories.
Yeah.
And using Photoshop and InVision, then we provided the link to everybody who needed to have access to go through the navigation and the user experience, so they could go there, put their comments, feedback on every page, and then we checked it and did the testing at the end.
Excellent. So it has great collaboration features as well, right? Good. Excellent. So let's go next one. When we're looking at the UX methods that we discussed in the previous presentation, for those who who are already familiar with UX design, I've selected some of the methods and techniques used in UX design. We know that there are other techniques, tools, methods available, and everyone has a slightly different take on it. It also depends on whether you do app design, web design, service design, product design as such. You would probably add more methods to it, or maybe will swap a method with something that is more adequate depending on the project that you're working on. We are here at this particular stage, the prototyping, so we've done all the research personas, ideation, came up with ideas which we tested in scenarios and storyboards, then used a flowchart to map out the user journey, and then basically created the wireframes. And from the wireframes, which is just the kind of the framework where we've established already where our navigation should go to, buttons, and the structure in general of the interface, we now want to see how this wireframe is translated into something that is has more of a visual, where the visual components are more advanced. Yeah? Whereas in the wireframes it's still quite open at this stage. You've all done wireframes, or some of you wireframes as well, yeah? So it's quite important. And then of course the prototypes will be tested. So what kind of prototypes are being used in UX design? There's different types of, first of all, there are different types of prototypes as well. So we have two different categories actually. Oops. First of all, we have low fidelity or lo-fi prototyping, and this is usually to show where elements should go to, which position, and also to find out whether the ideas that we developed in the solution that we came up with in the ideation process work, and we can use the low fidelity prototype for usability testing, yeah, to find out whether what we've actually designed so far, developed so far, makes sense to the users as well, and also to find further areas of improvement. Yeah, so that's low fidelity, and as it says, incomplete and have some characteristics of the target product, but are otherwise simple, usually in order to quickly produce the prototype and test. I think there is one. Something missing. I just see. Just the concepts basically. Yeah? Is that clear so far? Excellent. Good. So this is just an overview, yeah, of the low-tech, or in this case, is lo-fi prototype, which, as you can see, only you need some post-its, you need some paper, different types of papers, and a bit of cardboard and something like that. You know, different ways of creating these lo-fi prototypes. You can also use stencils. You can find some online. Yeah, you can find predefined buttons. Most importantly is when you have a mobile phone that you, a mobile app that you develop, that you do make it twice as big as the original size. Otherwise, it's difficult to record as well the usability testing. Also for the user basically to work with. So we usually make it twice as big as the original. Any questions so far? As you can see, you need to have all the different elements ready that the user will interact with, and during the prototype testing, you will see later in the video, you have one person who will be the computer behind it, and will basically replace the buttons and the numbers accordingly. The next type of course, yes, please.
Would you actually use a lo-fi prototype for testing?
Yes, usability testing on lo-fi prototypes, yes, most definitely. This way you can find out whether the ideas and solutions that you developed in previous step work without going into more advanced tools which sometimes require knowledge of using the tools, and especially when you start programming these apps and these prototypes, which can be quite time-consuming. Yeah, this can be done by a wide range of people that you have. They don't need to be developers. They don't need to have knowledge of coding, things like HTML and JavaScript, and maybe even further Xcode and so on. Yeah. We also have high-fidelity prototyping, which basically is the next step. So once you've done the lo-fi prototypes and have tested them, you will then improve your product within that kind of process, so between the low fidelity and high fidelity. Those improvements will be then used in the high fidelity prototype, and you will basically put those in the prototype, which you will test later. And this high fidelity prototype is much closer to your real product, so has all the information that you need to put onto, so need to be clearly labeled, and you should have the colors that you want to put in the final product. You should also have it should also be interactive. So at least certain areas should be interactive. The areas that you want to test on, you probably won't be able to make it like fully interactive. It depends on what you want to test, and therefore I've selected different tools, which I will show you later on. Depending on the level of interactivity, you will choose different tools for that. Yeah, but again, this is much closer to the original. Here's an example. Again, on the left-hand side is the prototype, low fidelity prototype, and this is translated into the high fidelity. And as you can see, there are elements which are similar, so it's exactly that set up, but you see already the similar arrangements. Yeah. So there was also in between the usability testing, and already in this low fidelity prototype there were we spotted a few kind of areas where people struggled using this app. So you've improved it further, and then those changes are here now made in this the high fidelity prototype. Let's take a seat. Any questions so far?
Will your presentation be available?
The presentation, yeah, it will be this particular one, but the video recording will be available.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because that's something that I'll use in all courses basically. So that just a summary, prototypes allow us to create a semi or realistic version of the final product, simulate how the product will look, function and feel like, identify potential problems and get feedback from end users, test the proposed solution, see how users will interact with the new interface, and quickly make changes and test alternatives. Yeah? Of course, there are some general considerations when you create interactive prototypes, and this is something which we're going to look at next. There are lots of devices out there, and we're getting more and more. So what needs to be considered, of course, is the format, is the size, is the resolution, is it landscape, is it portrait. Your wireframe that you developed and where your prototype is based on should be developed for the different orientation as well. So in landscape it probably will behave differently than in portrait mode, because you have just wider screen. You also need to decide on what platform you want to simulate. So it's different developing a prototype for an Android-based device than an iOS. Why is that? Because at some stage you need to, well actually at this stage you need to just determine what kind of icons you use, and also the design patterns are different. Yeah, you remember from the previous presentation I was talking about design patterns? Who remembers the design patterns, yeah? Can you tell maybe the rest of the audience what you remember from the design patterns?
Solutions to common problems.
Sorry?
Solutions to common problems.
Exactly, solutions for common problems. By that we mean, thank you very much. Sorry?
Tested, already tested.
That has been tested and most people are familiar with. That's the whole idea, so that they don't need to learn how to use a certain button or a tabbed navigation or tabbed content. So I used the example of the shopping cart, which we all know now, but it was in early kind of days where, say in 2000, earlier than that actually, the first couple of websites where you could do shopping, it was all kind of, they all had their own take on the shopping process, the buying process. And the shopping cart was then introduced, and I think it was Amazon as far as I remember. And this has become a standard, so we all know that the shopping cart means, you know, this is where we can find our items. And this is what we call a design pattern. So something, a solution for a common problem. And this is related to app design as well as web design. Yeah, there's also patterns, design patterns for other areas, for architecture, interior design, and so on. Yeah?
And then one question.
Of course.
All that we are talking about, just due to my background, talking about more, of course, digital and website, but can these be applied to, for example, events?
Yeah, events, so basically
Like
UX design, yes, most definitely, because as soon as you have a process, can use this, yeah, a process, I mean also an app. An app is a process, so as you go through certain steps in order to get from A to B. Yeah.
The path can be digital, but it can be even just the person
Yes.
walking in the shop
Yes,
and the way that
the
interacts
shopping,
with the walls,
exactly.
or-
So that's why I say service design. It can be applied to service design. That includes retail experience as well. Yeah, most definitely. You will find that our shopping experience has been designed. I mean, the way there's a reason why certain certain products are at a specific height. And it's not only psychology; it's also behavior that has been recognized by those who design those shops and use basically.
We started designing for touchscreens, so big large touchscreens for events and stuff, and find that sometimes you have to move your arm so far if it's on like a 80-inch screen,
Yeah.
kind of just bearing in mind all those aspects.
Yeah.
So lots of different aspects.
Also the kind of physical limitation that we have
Yes,
here. So
yeah.
there's maybe that requires
Yeah.
the
And
design
people aren't-
patterns that
because people
are
aren't as used to that.
Yes.
Yet, kind of have to prompt them with arrows or animations
Yeah.
to kind of
Yeah.
go that way instead of,
exactly. But over time, when we get accustomed to it,
yeah.
we will understand that there are certain design patterns, and then designers will make use of them, and we will find it easier to use these larger screens. Yes, but these are all challenges, of course, or opportunities. Yeah. Okay, information that is relevant to perform the task. Use easy to understand terminology for labels, and this is actually quite important. You will find when the labels are when the buttons are not labeled properly, you can confuse people, and you maybe produce errors, or they produce errors during the usability testing, which could have been avoided. Yeah, so terminology is a big topic, because if you develop for Android or Windows, it's different. And for instance, iOS, and according you have to use it's a back button or something like that, which is different in Android platform. You have to make sure that you understand terminology of each operating system as well. Does it make sense so far? Excellent. Also screen transitions such as fade, push, left, right, and all of that, you need to design that. That's part of the experience. So something that we can't have in our low fidelity prototype, now that can be considered in the high fidelity prototype. So the animation between screens or between certain actions as well, we need to design those as well. So it's quite a lot that needs to be considered.
Do you find that there's certain mental models that people have in their mind pre-wired, that they assume certain movements or certain things on the screen? That it's like a design pattern, if you like.
Yeah, I mean, you must forget that for instance, if you're an iPhone user, you've been using an iPhone maybe for years, you just do it intuitively because Apple follows the same design patterns that they've developed, basically. And we got used to them. That's why whenever there's a new app out that follows exactly the same kind of design patterns, it's very easy for us to use those apps. If they don't follow the design pattern, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're not good apps, but maybe it might take time for some people to get used to it and to use it properly. Yeah, so might be a learning curve as well. Yeah, so but there's definitely a certain pattern behind it. Yeah? And we do it intuitively, which simply means we know how to use it because we have either used it in a similar context or know that we use it in a different context, but we can do knowledge transfer. That's what it's about. So once we get to the stage where we do high fidelity prototyping, you want to know about UI, user interface elements, or it's also called graphic user interface. And this is where you have to not only, or should have a knowledge, or at least learn about the differences between Windows, iOS, and Android, for instance, because the buttons, the elements of the standard set are different, yeah, and you need to consider that, and they're also size-wise they're different. So you can't have exactly the same design on an iPhone that you can have on an Android phone, for instance. Yeah. So it's different. You need to consider that as well. So therefore, I put together some of the templates. They're constantly updated. As we know now, iOS 9 is out. Yes, is out. And I've put together some of the links. I mean, you can either take a picture of it or just Google it. Basically, I've used a tiny URL for you shorter. But basically, these are graphic user interface elements that can be downloaded, and you can put together your interface in Photoshop, for instance. Some are available for Illustrator, so I prefer to do the Illustrator one. There's of course a huge advantage to this in Illustrator in that way that you can scale things easily. You can do the same in Photoshop, but most tools, of course, in Illustrator are for vector graphics, so it depends on what you prefer also. Yeah. I have these websites up as well. So as you can see, you can download them. Some of them are Photoshop files, and this one is for Android, for instance. We also have the one here is coming up for materials, so window, material design, and again, it's a free Photoshop file which you can download with all the graphic user interface, standard graphic user interface elements which you can use for your high fidelity prototype. Yeah, this one is, you won't see much, but this is basically the website, and you get them for different phones as well. I'm sure the iOS 9 is coming out shortly or has been released already. This is how it looks in Photoshop. So you have a whole bunch of screens that you can use as a starting point, even the phone itself, if you need that as well. You have keyboards, you have buttons, you have all sorts of things, and there are groups. So if I, for instance, click on this one here, it will show me the spotlight, which consists of several layers. If I turn it off, I can see these are basically, this is all under the topic of spotlight, yeah? So you have all the elements that you need. You don't need to start from scratch. This will save you, not only that will save you an awful lot of time, but also it makes it consistent. You don't want to start design is something that's already been designed, and especially things like the keyboard and the top bar, for instance, the header. Yeah.
Are these free to use commercially?
Yes, it depends on what kind of context. I don't know all of them because there's so many different ones out there. But usually, you wouldn't sell those directly. You know what I mean? Because this is just a simulation. So if you later decide to use the keyboard, it comes from the operating system. So your developer will basically program it so that whenever you press, type in, let's say, the user name, the keyboard will come automatically, and that comes from the operating system anyway.
What I mean is those kits.
Yeah, it can be used, but because you're not making money in that way, you're not selling these designs. They are just for simulation purposes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But if a client pays me to make prototype.
It depends on the basically on the license. Basically, yeah. Depends on the license. Is that clear so far? Yeah. Good. Go back to the presentation here. So which tools are available? We talked already about the differences between low fidelity and high fidelity. With low fidelity, for this particular presentation, I thought it's not so much of a topic of interest for most people, as there are some tutorials out there which you could have a look at, but it's more the high fidelity prototyping, which is a bit confusing in that way because there's so many tools out there, and it seems to be that every month something new is popping up on the internet. And what I've done is from experience working with some of these, I've created basically an overview, and I've chosen 3 based on requirements that we have in projects, so on very complex to less complex projects. So basically, this is just a selection of prototyping tools that you find. Most of them are just founded. Sorry about that. Is basically those apps. Most of them are apps that you can that are cloud-based, and some of them you have to download. I have chosen 3 of them. As you can see, I've highlighted them for several reasons, which I will explain in a minute. You find someone mentioned also InVision, also the app. Yeah, you've used it before.
It's excellent for
Collaborating. Yeah.
Yes.
So some of these tools do have a kind of collaboration features, which are good. Others are more kind of wireframing oriented. Others will allow you to do very complex interaction, but also requires an understanding of coding to a certain extent. Yeah, so there's different kind of levels of prototyping tools, and some of them are quite expensive, and some of them are less expensive. So the first one is Marvel. Yeah. I mentioned it already. You've been using it since.
Yeah, we use it at work now.
Yeah. And how do you find it so far?
It's really good. Our challenge at work is a lot of our products are protected under non-disclosure agreements, so we can't really show them to anyone. So it's been a challenge of we're not able to invite clients into our office to obviously come and test software. So we're investigating things like using Marvel to send them a link to a cloud-based, obviously, version of our application for them to mess around and then give us feedback. So it is very, very good. It's very extensive. It is free. And again, it's a great way to just give someone a link and then just download and play with your application or do it all online. So it is very good.
Excellent, yeah. I find that Marvel is particularly useful for those who don't have a programming background and who are very visual oriented. It's excellent in collaboration for designers and developers, but also to present your ideas to clients and to, of course, do usability testing. That's the whole idea of creating prototypes as well. And that's a good starting point. And also they tend to update the features on a regular basis. So you will see from the demo that I prepared that the guys basically quite motivated, and he does a good job there as well. So Marvel, basically. Marvel, I've picked Marvel because it's a cloud-based application. It's simpler and easy to use, and it has a clean interface. It's also, the coding is not required. That means you don't need to learn a particular programming language or markup language, whatever, in order to use it. Usually when I give it to people, it's okay, that's the project, here's basically, that's a low-fidelity prototype. Within an hour, you get accustomed to it. Yeah, it's very easy, and if you have used similar online tools or know how to use a content management system, you will find it probably quite easy to use. So easy to learn within a short period of time. Ability to sync prototypes with Dropbox, which is quite good. So you can have Dropbox, and then you can. That means you can work in collaboration. You can have people creating on screen the screens, and then you can ask them to save it in a particular Dropbox, and then those graphics are pulled from the Dropbox and placed into Marvel and be updated as well, which is quite handy. You can easily share and test prototypes, as Ayman already explained, and you can not only test it on the computer screen, you can also test it on a mobile phone, which is excellent. I would say one of the disadvantages is that it does not support very complex interactivity. That means if you have kind of conditional actions and things like that, it doesn't really support it. But that's not necessarily needed for a lot of apps. It's more when you have to fill in forms and things like that, which it's not the strength of this particular tool. Now I'm going to show you a short video of this application. So that's the website. I'll go to it in a minute, and you basically just need to create an account, and there's a free account as well, which you can try, and you find lots of samples as well, sample projects. And I'm going to show you now from the section of watch a demo video. It actually gives you a good idea of what this app is about.
I'm just going to take you through a really quick demo of Marvel and tell you a bit more about what it does. So Marvel is a really simple, easy to use prototyping tool that lets anyone create realistic mobile and web prototypes without needing to code. And the beautiful part about it is that everything is run off Dropbox, so whenever you make a change to your design files, your prototypes will update in the background and you don't need to do any more work. So I'm just going to take you through how to create your first project. So you sign into Marvel using Dropbox, and that's done securely using SSL. It's also worth noting that we never delete or modify any of your files on Dropbox. We just simply extract the image to use your prototype. So once you've connected, you can start your first project. And you can add images. Those can be Photoshop files, PNGs, JPEGs, or animated GIFs. Or if you like to sketch on paper, you can use our iPhone app and upload those into your project. I'm just going to upload some PSDs I made. So I've got 5 PSDs here for our iPhone, but they can be for Android, tablet, or web. Once you've selected them, we pull in the PSDs from Dropbox and we convert them into PNGs so you don't have to. Once they've all come in, you can start linking each of these screens together using hotspots, and I'll show you how to do that now. You just simply hover over the image, click on edit, and you'll be taken into the edit mode. So once you're in, you can draw a hotspot over an element which you want someone to touch or click. So I've designed this button on the image. I want it to go to this screen when someone taps on it. I do exactly the same thing here. When someone taps on this place in the menu, I want it to go to that screen. You can also add realistic things like transitions, so slide up, slide down, slide left and right, gestures, pinch, swipe, those sorts of things, and also fixed header and footers. So if you want a long image to scroll underneath another part of an image, you can add a fixed header and footer. I'll show you what that looks like now. So once you're done, you click on play, and you can start messing around with your prototype. As you can see, there's a fixed header in there, and there's the animation I selected. So when you're ready, you can share it to any device directly from the app. All Marble prototypes are hosted on a unique URL, and you can view that in any mobile device, any tablet, any browser. You can send it from the app via email, SMS, or use a QR code. You can even embed it in your own website or your blog. So, just going to quickly show you how the syncing works with Dropbox. So, I am going to select one of these screens. I'm just going to change the button colour to a nice pink. Hit save. So that file goes up to Dropbox, and once it's synced, you should see this update, without you needing to do much at all. So the file will get sent to Dropbox. As you see, it's updating. We put in a new image, and there you go. Your prototype's just been updated. And if you go to the play button, you'll see the change in there. So that's how Marble works. Really keen to get your feedback. Hope you enjoyed the video. If there's any questions or anything like that, just hit support and we'll get back to you straight away. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Yeah. So it's good tool for those who want to start basically using high-fidelity prototypes. Easy to learn, and just give it a go.
It's amazing that you don't have to code anything, it's already automated.
Yeah.
So it makes the interaction with the actual developer much easier.
Yeah.
So,
Excellent.
Is it easy enough to send that to your clients?
Yeah.
You can do it on their
Yes.
phone, give them
The link,
plug in the USB,
USB.
and it's open it on that phone, and it's
Yes,
Send
you.
them the link,
a
and
link.
if they download the Marvel app, once they tap on the link, it will automatically open within the application. Then they can just start that.
Do they
So-
need the Dropbox files as well?
That will all be posted all on the website. So you just type it, it literally opens up a website in an app view.
and it's already on the play mode.
Yeah, already.
Yeah. There's also a little icon that comes up then on the on your screen, home screen, on the phone. Yeah, it's good.
Can when you send a link, can people log their feedback or comments in different pages?
Not on different pages, not at the moment, as far as I remember. But like I said, this will be updated or is updated on a regular basis. So might be available now as we speak. But as far as I remember, this gentleman is quite keen on developing it further, and maybe that's something that you could give as a feedback.
It looks great, but if I give my clients details, SMS, telephone number, or email address, will they have trouble with that? Is that more? Normally when you give someone his email address to start
Your email address in terms of
telephone number, will it be? Is it's stored somewhere?
you mean
They don't access your account. I don't think they access your account. Just send in the link to how it works.
No, I know how it works. I know how email works. It's just, some people are afraid to get spammed or something.
Yeah, you probably
or
should.
that it will be used for other things.
Okay, so basically, this is a link that you will send from the Marble app, from the website onto the client. So that basically, it's based on their server, stored on their server.
The easiest
Yeah.
way you can do it is, I don't know if you saw, but he said you can embed your prototype on a website. So if you've
Oh,
got your own
okay. So
website,
you
you
don't
can
need
just
to
embed it, give them a link to your site, and they
Okay.
can start.
Yeah, there's many different ways depending on how you want to share it. Good, excellent. So that's Marvel. The next tool is UXPin, and I would say that UXPin is probably a more advanced version of the current Marvel, by saying that there are certain things in Marvel which are just really well designed and work extremely well. UXPin is very useful in that sense that you have libraries with design patterns for different types of projects, for phones as well as tablets, as well as computer screens, for web design, basically responsive web design as well. It also allows you to, now in beta testing, you can do usability testing. You can send someone your prototype and you can basically record what they're doing, basically using their camera. Of course, they have to agree to that, so you don't necessarily need to have them come into your place. This is another way of doing usability testing. It's really useful, even in this beta version. It's very promising. It takes a little bit more time to get used to, but not necessarily like days and days and days, because it's not that complex. So it's again a cloud-based application. It's simple and easy to use, has a clean user interface, no coding required. Useful for wireframing, but also for high fidelity. That means high fidelity prototyping. You can also use it for wireframes, as it has lots of library elements. And it has a great collaboration feature, which is more advanced, I would say. And of course, you can do usability testing. And again, it is not as it does not necessarily support a complex interactivity. Yeah.
Question.
Of course.
When you send the design to, say, a user, and they're allowed to record it, or we're allowed to record it, is that's just something in their system that it works on their system, is what you're saying?
The recording, yes.
And that's just, what happens? Does that get saved as a MP4?
It's saved, as far as I know, on the server, because that's something that you will have access to. So the person who's sending out the request for usability testing session will want to have access to the video. So it will be saved within the space it's allocated for your project on the UXPin server. Yeah.
Does it show touch points on the recording? So where you, I know on Dribble that you had it there when people show examples of the journey that's recorded. There's like a finger point and then it goes to the next screen.
Yeah. It does show you certain tracking elements. You see that as well. You see also where they are within the task. You have certain elements that to give you visual hints, basically. Yes. Okay, so basically, when we go to the website, I have some videos which you can find on YouTube, funny enough. And again, this is a demo one, which I think works well. Let's have a look at this one here.
Welcome to UXPin. This overview will get you ready to start designing in UXPin today. The dashboard is where you will access your project's library. From here, you can open existing projects and begin a new project. Choose the project type that you want by selecting Create a New Wireframe, iPhone app, or Responsive Website. You can also create and upload your UX documents to UXPin and store them along with your projects. The editor is where you'll find the tools you need to build your designs. A great place to start is the Elements library. Here, browse thousands of elements and libraries. Libraries such as Bootstrap and Foundation are a great resource to get you started. To quickly find the element you need, press the search icon or Control F to bring up the keyword search. Here, quickly find and select the element that you need. Going hi-fi is easy and intuitive in UXPin. Customize your elements by selecting size, color, typography, and more. Smart guides let you easily align and center elements throughout your design. Add images to your design simply by dragging and dropping those files directly onto the canvas. With UXPin, building an interactive prototype has never been easier. Bring your designs to life by adding interactions. Users will now be able to not only look at your designs, but interact with them and get the full impact. Ready to see your finished product? Head over to preview mode to see what your design will look like live. In preview mode, your interactions are brought to life for your audience as it simulates the experience of a live website. Preview mode is a great place to share and get feedback on your design. No need to email designs any longer. Simply share your UXPin preview link. Here, your audience will be able to provide you feedback through comments. Using this feature throughout your design process makes iterating upon your designs intuitive and easy. When you're ready to upgrade, head to the dashboard just at the top right corner of your page. Here, you can also extend your trial if you need a little bit more time. Now you're ready to get started. So head to your dashboard, open up a project, and get designing. Should you have any questions, feel free to email us anytime at hello@uxpin.com. You can also access our library tutorials at desk.uxpin.com.
Excellent. Any question?
This is kind of the way the grid would like to make the new website work with artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Because that's what I was checking the moment, because the kind of work that we want. Do you know anything, any updates in this sort of sense? And which, do you know what the grid is?
Yeah.
So I was just asking
Yeah.
if you know any further development, because this one looked to me very similar, so in which you create the interface, but at the same time it generates the code.
Okay, not necessarily. I have no specific information about any progress on that.
I was that directed
Yeah.
that way as well.
Talk on
Yeah. Any other questions, please?
So is it possible to bring in a flat wireframe into it?
Yes.
Or do you have to build
Yes.
the whole thing
No.
in UX?
No. It could be just one image, and you can put hotspots on it, and yeah, something like that. That would be basic wireframing as well. Or you can have frames that you fill with graphics.
So can you not drag in a flat mock-up from
Yeah,
PSD with
yeah,
layers,
yeah.
using the layers?
There's also plugins available, so as you can expand also on the functionality. So it's has more options than in Marvel. Yeah, not sure about the Dropbox integration. Yeah. So that's basically one step up, I would say. More interactivity, more advanced interactivity possible. The final tool that I would like to introduce you to is Exure, and this is one of the tools which probably you will hear a lot about, or have heard maybe before when you work with UX designers. This is one tool that has been hyped. It's a good tool. It's software that you have to install on your machine. It is more difficult to learn, though. It has lots of features, and it's very good in terms of complex interactivity, wireframing, high fidelity, lots of plugins, add-ons, libraries that you can download, that you can purchase as well. and therefore I think it's part of the top 3 most definitely. And that's why I wanted to show you this particular tool as well. So you have it for Mac and PC, and it's great for wireframing, prototyping, and documentation. It has animation, drag and drop functionality as well. The interface you will see in a minute. You have to get used to. It's a proper application basically, and therefore will take some time for you to get used to. Has a little bit of a feel of kind of a very old-fashioned Microsoft product almost, yeah. But I'm sure that's something that they will improve as well. And of course, this is also something that you have to purchase in that sense. So that's Xero. Let me show you the video. So that's the website, and they have lots of different videos on here. And just have a quick look on that so that you get an idea of the interface as well. So.
In this video, we'll learn how to format widgets, link pages, and preview your design in the browser. We'll also generate HTML files for your project and get a unique URL to share with others. Start by dragging the button-shaped widget onto the design area. With the widget still selected, type Next Page to edit the text, then click the Fill Color button in the toolbar to make the button blue. For step 2, we'll add an interaction. Make sure the button-shaped widget is still selected, then click Create Link in the Interactions tab. In the drop-down dialog, specify Page 1. We're going to test out the link in the browser. Click the Preview button on the toolbar. From here, you can click your link to test it out. Now we're going to upload your project to ActureShare, our cloud hosting service. Click the ActureShare icon in the toolbar. Then in the dialog, enter an email address and a password to create an ActureShare account. Accept the terms and save your password for future uploads. You also have the option to enter a name for your project and a password to keep it private. Click Publish to start the upload and get your URL. The final step is to generate locally. Click the Publish button in the toolbar, then click Generate HTML. Acture will generate the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files to the folder path you've specified in this field. Click Generate to begin creating these files. Great job! If you have any questions, feel free to post them on our forum at acture.com/forum or email us at support@acture.com.
You can see that it also uses HTML and CSS, so that means it could potentially be the gap between design and the coding part. Yeah. It's something that you have to explore further, depending on the project and complexity of the project as well, functionality required. So as you can see, this is more like you have to spend some time getting used to the interface and learning this application as you need to learn Illustrator, InDesign, Photoshop, things like that. Maybe not as complex, but it definitely requires a bit of time, spending a bit of time with it. Yeah. Any questions?
I think it's your point. I noticed on Wix thing that the user is able to put comments around certain items that they change the code to blue.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a functionality that you do?
Not that I'm aware of. No. But again, the thing is with the first two applications, the first two cloud-based applications, you can see that they update on a regular basis, and they probably do that whenever they get feedback as well from users. Whereas this is a software that needs to be compiled as well. So there's a slightly different approach, I think. Whereas this is online, this can be done almost immediately. Yeah. Whereas this requires an update that you have to download and install. So it's a different process. Therefore, it will take longer till all the user feedback has been actually put into a new application. Yeah, yeah, it is. It is. Excellent. That's basically it for the presentation. I hope you enjoyed it, found it useful. Yeah, thank you very much. So don't forget, there are lots of different prototyping tools out there. So the ones that I've mentioned is a very good starting point, and everything else, just go out there and just do a little bit of research. Yeah. If you have any questions, I'm here for the next couple of hours. Yeah. Enjoy the rest of your event.